2024. Please join the board in a pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Canty?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This meeting of the Plymouth Select Board is taking place in a hybrid format consistent with modifications made to the open meeting law by the legislature of the Commonwealth. We have members of the board joining us physically in person here at the Great Hall at Town Hall. Members of the public may be joining us in person at the Great Hall here at Town Hall or over the Zoom webinar platform. The Zoom login information is contained on the agenda that is posted on the town website. Members of the public may also watch the meeting on Comcast Channel 9 or Verizon Channel 47. And then members that are in physical attendance are reminded that, consistent with the laws of the Commonwealth, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting of the Select Board after notifying the chair, subject to reasonable requirements of the chair, so as to not interfere with the conduct of the meeting. At the beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any recordings. The only recording we are aware of is that of PAC TV, which is, of course, broadcasting this consistent with the earlier announcements. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Canty. First order of business is a transfer of stock, change of offices, and change of manager from Rye Tavern Corporation, 517 Old Sandwich Road. Ellis Withington, manager, holder of annual all alcohol restaurant license. In accordance with Chapter 138 of the Massachusetts General Laws as amended, notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held on Tuesday, June 25th, 2024 at 6 p.m. to consider the application for a transfer of stock, change of offices, and change of manager from Rye Tavern Corporation, 517 Old Sandwich Road. Ellis Withington, manager, holder of annual all alcohol restaurant license. Description of premises is as follows. First floor and patio area, 2 entrances and exits for public on the first floor, 1 on the main entrance exit and 1 side entrance exit. Kitchen, approximately 489 square foot, bar and dining area, approximately 940 square feet, and bathroom. 400 square foot of outside patio on the south side, 720 square feet outside patio on the east side. Anyone wishing to be heard on this matter should plan to attend this meeting. I now declare this hearing as open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application? Please come up to the mic, make sure the green light's on, and identify yourself for the record, please.
I'm Ellis Withington. I'm the owner of the Rye Tavern. I'm one of the founders from 2011, and I had a little hiatus, and now I'm back. So it's a place I'm very familiar with and have owned in the past.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? No one online, right? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? No one online. Pleasure of the board.
I have a question.
Question, Mr. Bledsoe?
Mr. Withington, I just have a question. So, who's the manager as of today before you're taking over? Who's been managing?
For the restaurant?
So,
or the bar?
I'm
manager?
just trying to figure out, so you're taking back over ownership?
Yes.
So who did you're transferring the stock? Is that what you're doing?
Yes.
Okay, so from who had the stock? Are you taking over 100% of the stock?
Yeah. My niece and nephew owned it after I owned it, and I bought it back from them.
Right. So you bought it back from them. Okay. I was just trying to understand that. So it's a great place. I was just trying to figure that out. So anyway, all right. Good luck. How's business?
Well, it's like the weather.
Yeah.
If it's good, it's good. If
Yeah.
it's not, I'm going to the bank with money going the other way.
There you go. All right. Good luck. It's not easy.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, favor of the board.
Make a motion to approve the transfer of stock, change of officers, and change of manager.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Canty, second by Mr. Blesser. Discussion? Mr. Golden?
Yes.
Mr. Blesser?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
And myself, yes, unanimous. Thank you. Any questions
Thanks.
on the administrative notes? If there isn't, there's 9 of them. Take them as a group unless the board otherwise requests different.
If my colleagues have no questions or comments, I would make a motion to take the administrative notes 1 through 9 as a group.
I can second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Canty, second by Mr. Blitzer. Discussion? Mr. Golden?
Yes.
Mr. Blitzer?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Unanimous. First agenda item, Water Street Sewer Interceptor, ARPA check presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the membership, I am Commissioner Jared Valenzola, Chair, and it is a pleasure to be before you folks for what I believe will be the last time. Plymouth has now become, I believe, the 9th community in Plymouth County to max out their ARPA allocation, municipal allocation. I do want to, before I just get into some brief remarks, just extend the regrets of Commissioner Hanley and Commissioner Wright that they couldn't be here, as well as Treasurer O'Brien. We've been very proud of this partnership with the town of Plymouth, with Mr. Brindisi, with Lynn, and your entire team here. You have used, I believe, all of these funds for that project on Water Street. We found that that was the highest and best use of ARPA funding, was water and sewer infrastructure and taking care of those one-time expenditures. It has been a privilege to be able to work with the town of Plymouth on these projects and continue that partnership. We have asked the member communities to commit those funds, the other member communities to commit their funds by September 30th. As of now, they have indicated that they will be using all of their funding. However, should they not, much like what we did with the CARES Act, we will begin to reshuffle some of those funds as we maintain our promise to not return any money to the federal government. So stay tuned. We could be back from one, but as of now, the town has reached their final allocation, which is, of course, $1.6 million for that sewer interceptor on Water Street. Last but certainly not least, I do want to thank Representative Lenatro, Representative Muratori, and Senator Moran. They've both been, all 3 of them have been staunch advocates for the town, calling myself and calling the Treasurer's office, and of course to you folks as well. We've been very, very grateful for the partnership to be able to work with our host community, which is the town of Plymouth. So that is really all for me. Usually I go briefly when I'm flying solo, but I'm always happy to take questions if appropriate, or comments. If not, we do have the big check, which now is a crease in the middle because it almost blew away at Nantasket Beach a couple of months ago. So we are frugal with the county. So.
Okay, Mr. Canty?
So in the event that other communities miss the deadline, how could we be in a good position to be near the front of the queue to drink from that trough?
So we had requested, and I believe Plymouth did satisfy communities to still submit what they would use it on. So I believe that we already have some items in the queue for the town, should those other towns not, so that the county can quickly pivot to awarding those funds.
Do you have or could you provide a estimated dollar figure? You don't have to do it now, but an estimated dollar amount so we know what we're... Because we are a community with, as recent residents, you'll find out yourself.
Yes.
We are a community of various and innumerable needs. So we can certainly find places to spend this money if our other communities are better
Yes.
off.
I can tell you right now, as of now, that number is 0. Every town has indicated that they will use their allocation. So right now, until we get to September 30th, that number will remain 0. Once we get to September 30th, we're confident that we'll have a clear picture, and we will communicate that to Derek, to Mr. Brindisi, and to the other member communities that have submitted above and beyond. Again, much like with CARES, we know that a lot of these communities that have put in likely won't follow through for a number of reasons.
Right.
And even before being a recent resident of Plymouth, which I'm happy to be here, I was aware Plymouth, Brockton, a lot of those, especially those 2 communities, have a lot of needs that are vast that we could cover. We will cover those if it's $1 or $1 million, we will make sure the communities that need it, of course Plymouth being one of the top ones, receive it.
So how formal of a request would you want? Would you want the board to be voting on a request, even if it's for this unaccounted for, possibly non-existent money, or would it just be the
It's
town
already a
manager?
submission. So I believe communications have gone out that a submission should have been made.
Okay.
To my knowledge, it already has been. So it would follow the same rubric that's been followed to be awarded these funds as well as other funds. It's just whatever request the town of Plymouth makes between now and then will be held in abeyance pending the availability of funds.
Okay, so, Mr. Brindisi, through the chair, if we could look at our wish list and needs list to see what things we could put in this queue to get ahead of the game in case some of our neighboring/competing communities don't follow through, I think that would probably be in our best interest.
Absolutely, and so we also did plan on having an ARPA presentation on the July 9th meeting, so at that point, we'll talk more about the various projects. As you know, we probably have more projects in the queue than we have funding available, so we'll present this to the board on July 9th as well.
Thank you.
And then just to answer one more thing, Mr. Cantu, it wouldn't necessarily be competing with, if whatever's left would be allocated equally based on population. So much like the original allocation, whatever ends up being left over would be reallocated, again, based on whether communities submitted, but then it would also be population-based, which of course Plymouth, having the second largest population in the county, would have a significant portion of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Blutzer?
Yes, Commissioner Valenzola, I just want to thank the county. Obviously, you're representing the county, but there's a lot of people involved, all the other commissioners, as well as the treasurer, Mr. Baza, the administrator. And as you know, our administration, Town Manager Brindisi, Assistant Manager Silvio Janelle, our monies are spent very wisely. We have a lot of projects, and the use of our ARPA money it's well spent and properly spent. And I just want to thank you, because that water interceptor was a huge project for us. And there was a couple of bumps, obviously, so it cost a lot more money. And thank God this ARPA money, and it was managed properly, that we had enough ARPA money to pay for this project, so it didn't come out of the residential pockets. Absolutely. And and everybody out there that should know that's it was because of the management of that money. So again, I want to thank you for all the residents in Plymouth for this money. It's like I said, it's appreciated, and we have other projects, and if there's money left, would be very appreciative of some more funding.
We'll be happy to. Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the staff. We are trending at 1% administrative costs, and I forgot to mention this in my opening remarks, so I appreciate you jogging my memory. Just to highlight that, the national average is 7 to 10%. So on $100 million, we're spending roughly $1 million to administer this, and I know Derek and Silvio know the compliance with this alone is an albatross. So the fact that we're able to do that at 1% has meant more money for Plymouth and more money for the other member communities, again, where the national average is trending to 7 to 10%. And when we give you these dollars, we're not clawing them back. We're not coming back in 6 months to a year and saying, oops, we shouldn't have given you that. And that's an important thing for us that we'd like to highlight. And I'm glad you mentioned our staff, Frank Basler, Matt Hanley, again, Treasurer O'Brien, and my colleagues, because we're doing that to the betterment of Plymouth and to the member communities. And by doing that, it has meant more money for Plymouth, just as it did with the CARES Act, and it will continue to mean more money through ARPA.
And the last thing I want to say is I'm very familiar with how the county's run, and I am a supporter of county government, and I'm not afraid to say that publicly. So again, for the town of Plymouth, thank you very much for these funds.
Thank you.
Mr. Venezola, I'm going to echo on behalf of the town. Thank you very much. I was very impressed at the way the county handled the distribution of those funds. I think he's done a great job, and I get to hear a lot of that at the budgetary meetings that I was also impressed that several weeks ago
Thank you.
that we had there, and how you're handling your retirement OPEB liability, and how you're paying that down, and I think it's 10 years, it'll be right where it should be. I think that's what I heard.
Yeah.
So I was very impressed with that also, and that's good outlook, forward planning. That's what we're trying to do in Plymouth. We've been doing.
Yeah.
So I want to say thank you on behalf of the town, and we wouldn't have been able to do that project. And give you a little history about the project. It was at a select board meeting we were talking, and I happened to bring up at that time, it was the previous DPW director. And I asked him, I know it stopped down by the Rotary, what's the condition? And, and naturally, if it was easy, it would have been finished. Right. So, I already knew the answer before I asked. So we actually set some projects aside, the previous board, and went right for that one, because that one is very important. It ran through the harbor. We couldn't check on it. We couldn't get cameras down there. There's a lot of things people don't know. And if that had failed or collapsed, that's the close down of Water Street. And that would be awful.
Right.
And then, we'd be dummies and, not planning. So I'm glad we took that step out there. And there's been issues. There might even be one or two more. But at the end of the day, it's finished and it's done right. So I'll take that all day long. And we've been shoring up the wastewater treatment facility there. The next project, I believe, through Derek, was the retention wall, or whatever you want to, the wall there. And so we've been shoring up our waterfront, knowing climate change and everything else that goes with it. So
Absolutely.
without you, we wouldn't have been able to do that. So
Thank you.
Thank you
appreciate
very
that, and
much.
And we appreciate your membership on the advisory board. That's our
Yeah.
legislative branch, and
Yeah.
congratulations on getting on the executive committee there as well. We're very
Yeah.
happy, and Mr. Quintel's been a staunch advocate for Plymouth since being on there, and we really do appreciate, again, the partnership and the collaboration. As a county official, certainly, I can understand where some people might have some angst about our existence, but we've been here since 1685, and I think through this, and as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, we do some of the unfun things of government. Talking about pre-funding your OPEB liability and paying down your retirement liability isn't fun, but Plymouth County's leading the way on that, as well as so many other programs. And I know that's not the notice item on the agenda, but we're always happy to come back and talk about some of those items and talk about other ways that Plymouth County can save the town of Plymouth money.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so if it's appropriate, I do have the large and well-traveled check. If we could just do a quick picture, and I'll be on my way.
We're on a low budget.
Right, this is
in photo.
As I say, this is just to prove I was here.
Assistant town manager / photographer.
Okay. Next item up is the nuisance bylaw.
Hello there. So I'm obviously Kevin Canty, Vice Chair of the Board, joined by Town Council Kate McKay. We are here to present to you the current status of a renewed effort to try and pass a nuisance bylaw for the town of Plymouth. So here we go. So, some history on the nuisance bylaw. So, people that were paying attention last fall will recall that at fall annual town meeting on October 21st of last year, there was a proposed nuisance bylaw. It was Article 5. It contained provisions related to buildings, overgrowth, graffiti, pools of stagnant water, etc. There was a lot of debate and discussion about it. Its potential overreach, other issues that people had with some of the language that was contained therein. It was actually amended on town meeting floor not once but twice. Once to remove an exemption for municipal property in a vote of 101 to 30 to 5, which was an interesting removal because the thrust of the bylaw was to give the town teeth to go after is a strong term, but to have some enforcement authority to be able to do something about buildings that are in a dilapidated state that are creating fire hazards, nuisances, eyesores, those types of things. I think people watching or listening can think of one or more of those buildings in their community as to what they would be. But it was for private property. The town can already do stuff with municipal property, and the bylaw was designed at that time to allow for like liens and fines, and the town isn't going to do that to itself. So I thought that removal of that exemption was somewhat odd. Nevertheless, it was approved by town meeting. Then we got to, there was another exemption that was passed by town meeting to amend the motion to exempt overgrowth provision that was contained at the time from applying to biodiversity and agricultural uses. That had a 121 to 15 to 2 vote, so that passed. And then the twice amended motion ended up failing. So despite the amendments having tremendous support, the actual main motion as amended failed 24 to 114 to 1. So we have an uphill battle to pass a bylaw of this kind in Plymouth, and we have to be, I think, cognizant of that going into it, that we are facing some skepticism by the legislative branch and by some constituents at a minimum. So with that in mind, we have elected to focus on the primary thrust of what that bylaw was intended to do, as opposed to, a lot of the discussion last time was about the overgrowth part. There was also discussion about the graffiti part, where we really want to focus on specifically the buildings, because that's what we're getting a lot of discussion about and a lot of complaints about. What is the town doing about this building over here, that building over there, this building in my neighborhood, this building down by Whitehorse Beach that's been in this state for so long, et cetera, et cetera. So that is what we are trying to focus on, and our hope is if some of these other issues linger in the community, like overgrowth in the future, if we can demonstrate that we did a good job with the law as passed in its more scaled back form, perhaps we would have earned more trust from our legislative branch to allow us to do those types of things. But we understand that it was kind of an over-ask at the last time, as demonstrated by the significant margin of defeat that the original article suffered. So we are going to go through in detail at this particular hearing the language that is contained in the bylaw as it currently exists. This is going to be the first of multiple hearings. For the purpose, this is going to be a little dry, so I apologize for that. But, that's life sometimes. But getting the language out there and understanding the language, what it says, what it means, what it does, will be important to demonstrate what we are trying to do, and also conversely what we are not trying to do, and open a dialogue so that when this does go to town meeting next time, we're in a better position to actually get it passed. So let's start at the beginning. Always a good place to start. That would be Section 137-1, Purpose and Intent. Is the purpose and intent of the section to minimize nuisances in the municipality? Nuisances such as dilapidated buildings, structures including fences, debris, trash, stagnant pools of water, property having defective weather protection, and vacant or abandoned buildings, cause and contribute to blight within neighborhoods and commercial areas of the municipality, and adversely affect the public health and safety. This bylaw is intended to further the objectives of and to act in concert with any existing state or local laws. So I think the most logical way to go through this, Mr. Chairman, unless you have a different opinion, would be to open it up if anybody has any questions at any given slide while the language is up there, and then I can move forward to the next one. And we can always go back if something triggers.
Okay, any questions?
Okay. No? So obviously the purpose and intent is relatively straightforward and self-explaining. So this is what we're looking to do. This is why we're looking to do it, public health and safety. So Then we get into 137, Section 2. This is the first part of the definition section, so there will be more definitions on the next slide. Following words and phrases, when used in this bylaw, shall have the following meanings. Blighted premises, any building, structure, parcel of land, or of any part of a building or structure that is a separate unit, whether commercial or residential, whether occupied or unoccupied, whether in foreclosure or not, in which at least one of the following conditions exist. A, the premises is not being adequately maintained and secured, as documented by the enforcement officer, as the term is defined therein. Based upon, without limitation, the following factors: missing or boarded windows or doors, collapsing or missing walls, roof or floor, siding that is seriously damaged or missing, fire damage, improper weather protection and waterproofing, a foundation that is structurally faulty, accumulation of interior furniture outside, garbage, trash, junk, hazardous materials, unmaintained pools or other sources of stagnant water in violation of sanitary codes, inoperable cars, boats or motorcycles, or other inoperable machinery, or other refuse unless otherwise licensed to do so. B, it has been cited for violations as documented by the building inspector, zoning enforcement officer, health agent, the chief of police, the fire chief, and or their designated agents, and said violations have not been corrected. C, because of fire, wind, or other natural disaster, or because of physical deterioration, it is no longer habitable as a dwelling or useful for the purposes for which the completed structure was originally intended. So this is, I said, the first part of the definitions, but it lays out, what exactly we're looking for. I would add, too, that the language taken that defines blighted is from another community's somewhat related bylaw about blighted premises that has been approved by the Attorney General's office, which has to sign off on bylaw language. So we want to, rather than reinventing the wheel and risking that the AGO would not approve our language, this meets our stated purpose and desires. It's already been approved, so to me and to Town Council, I believe it makes sense to adopt that language. Mr. Golden, did you have a question?
If that's all right with you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Kevin. I actually think it's very smart that you're focusing on the buildings. I think this will go a long way to satisfy some of the concerns that town meeting had. Hopefully they will recognize that we're not coming after their too tall grass.
Right.
With this bylaw.
Right.
I do have a question under the blighted premises definition.
Sure.
Where it says, it's the second line on our packet. It says, in a separate unit, whether commercial or residential, do we need to state industrial, or are these not tied to classifications of property? Does commercial include industrial property?
So I would think it would, light industrial is a separate determination from commercial.
Just something to chew on. Whether or not you want to include that.
Right.
And then under both A and C, there's mention of fire. I would advocate to take that out. I would hate to see someone's house burn down and then suddenly we're enforcing our new bylaw to lose your house and then to have the town coming after you. And I don't think that we would in that circumstance, but I think that we could find ourselves in a situation where perhaps a neighbor wants us to enforce this bylaw based on fire damaged structures. I think other parts of this definition could satisfy in the case of a fire if something has been fire damaged for years. I think it could satisfy that. I would just remove that for the purposes of showing some compassion to folks who are in that situation. And then the last item I have in letter A under blighted properties, could we add excessive garbage, trash, and junk, and perhaps define what we mean by excessive?
Well, so I think it's easier to remove language than it is because the AG's office has already approved the language as written, right? If we started putting in a further definition, we could risk overextending ourselves. And I think partially with the fire damage, but particularly with the trash, I think an element of discretion. If somebody has like one sandwich wrapper outside their house, right? We're not gonna go after their property. It's really there for the properties we're thinking of, and particularly some of the garbage, trash, and junk is not just household stuff or commercial stuff. It's like stuff that's fallen off the structure and is now like trash, junk, debris, stuff like that. Because some of these structures have been in various levels of urban decay for extended periods, right? So I think we could remove fire damage if there's a consensus that we wanted to do that. That's easy to remove. There are some negatives because I don't think, if somebody had a fire, obviously we wouldn't like the next day show up and be like, what's the plan here? There's an element of discretion there, but I can see where you're coming from with that. But I think if we added excessive trash, then you're putting in a judgment call that hasn't been approved by the AGO, and maybe we compromise on that one. Yeah.
Mr. Canty, Mr. Golden, I respectfully disagree with taking the fire damage out, and I'll tell you why. I know of a property down at White Horse Beach that had fire damage. It's still a blight, and it's this would stop somebody from getting insurance money and not rehabbing the building properly. So I just think that we should leave that in. It works for other towns, and no disrespect to you, David, but I would leave the fire damage right in there.
Okay.
I just hate would have somebody take the money and not do anything about the property.
Right.
So,
Right.
Anyway, thank you.
Does anyone else have an opinion on fire damage? I personally am okay with keeping it in, but I'm open to. This isn't the first of multiple hearings, so if we get more feedback later that people are up in arms about the fire damage,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm certainly open to. This is not something, having read through the entirety of the proposal at this point,
Yep.
It's not something that I would vote against because of its inclusion.
Sure.
But I would like to hear more from the community as to whether or not
Right,
they would
right. And
agree.
as we said at the beginning last time, it failed spectacularly, so we want to be cognizant of the fact that we don't want to, again, overextend ourselves and have, even if we can't go after fire, we can still go after a lot of other problematic parcels. That's better than what we have right now to remedy the concerns that we're getting, right? So that's a consideration as well. All right, let's move forward. So, D, this is still definitions. It is determined by the building inspector, the zoning enforcement officer, the health agent, that the building structure or parcel of land is in a condition which poses a serious threat to safety, health, and general welfare of the town of Plymouth. Enforcement authority, the director of the special services or his or her designee, health director, his or her designee, fire chief, his or her designee, police chief, and his or her designee. Nuisance, a failure to satisfy any one or more of the property standards set forth in section 137-3. An owner is any person who owns, manages, or controls any property and shall be sufficiently identified by the name and address appearing in records of a municipal assessor who has legal title to any building, structure, or property, or is a mortgagee, or is an agent, trustee, or other person appointed by the courts and vested with possession or control of such building, structure, or property. Person, any individual, voluntary association of individuals, or nonprofit organization, business entity, organization, whether incorporated or not. Property, any land, building, structure of real property, including any fixtures attached thereto, or any personal property located within the town of Plymouth. Do you have any questions on this section of definitions? Okay. Then property standards is 137-3. All property, whether occupied or vacant, shall be maintained in a safe and sanitary condition so as to not cause or contribute to the creation of hazardous premises. All property, whether occupied or vacant, shall be maintained so as to not constitute a blighted premises as defined in section 137-2. All fences, storage sheds, or any element thereof shall be maintained in a structurally sound condition as determined by the enforcement authority. All property with siding and roof covering shall be maintained in a weather-resistant and watertight condition as determined by the enforcement authority. Any building or structure sustaining damage due to a fire, natural disaster, or any other incident determined by the enforcement authority to be a nuisance may cause the nuisance to be removed as provided in Mass General Laws, Chapter 139, at the owner's expense, or as provided in Section 137-4. Other determinations made by an enforcement officer and or his or her designated agents that the building, structure, or parcel of land is in a condition which poses a serious nuisance or serious threat to safety, health, and or the well-being of the town of Plymouth. Any questions on any of the property standards? Hearing and seeing none. Then the removal and corrective action, 137-4, it shall be unlawful for the owner of a property in the town of Plymouth to violate any one or number of the property standards contained in 137-3, and any such property in violation may be deemed to be a public nuisance. The enforcement authority shall order the property owner to take corrective action, including but not limited to removal of the structure or condition causing the violation within 30 days after service of the notice of the violation. Such notice shall be served in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 111, Section 124. The notice shall contain the following information: street address, description of the property sufficient for identification of the property, a statement that the property has been declared a public nuisance because of the presence of a nuisance on the property, a concise description of the conditions on the property that has led to the determination that the property is a public nuisance, a statement of the corrective action required, that the nuisance shall be removed from the property within 30 days from service of the notice, and if the owner fails to remove the nuisance within the time frame specified, that the owner will be in violation of this bylaw and subject to penalties described therein. Any questions on 137-4, removal of nuisance/corrective action? Hearing and seeing none, we will move forward. So then, continued 137-4. This is if the owner fails to take corrective action within the time frame provided, the enforcement authority may undertake corrective action and repairs when, in his or her judgment, a failure to make the necessary repairs or corrective action will endanger the health, welfare, or public safety. The town may seek a court-appointed receiver to manage the property and bring said property into compliance with all applicable statutes, regulations, and codes. Notice of the intention of the town to make such repairs or other corrective actions shall be served on the owner by certified mail, or by service in hand by a person duly authorized to do such. When the repairs are made or other corrective actions are taken by the town of Plymouth, the cost of such repairs shall constitute a debt in favor of the town against the owner of the repaired building or structure. If the owner fails, neglects, or refuses to pay the town the amount of the debt within 30 days of the receipt of the notice of the debt, the town may place a lien on the property for such debt and or may initiate a civil action against the owner in a court of competent jurisdiction to recover the debt. Any questions on that language? Hearing and seeing none. And then violations. So this one is incomplete, but I did provide to members of the board and members of the audience in attendance a copy of what the violations were last time. 137-5 listed fines: first violation $50, second $100, third $200, fourth and each subsequent $300. So I don't think the fine amounts would change per se, but the thing that's we're waiting on is we want, if an appeals, one of the questions that came up before was, how do I appeal this? What happens if I appeal this? And we would like language in there that outlines how you appeal it. You can appeal it under Massachusetts general law, but people don't know how to do that, and this will put it in there. And then we would like the language to reflect that if you're in an appeal process, that you're not accumulating additional violations while you're appealing it, because that's not really fair. If you're executing your legal right, that you would toll the accumulation of additional violations until that has played out, and then once your appeal is exhausted, then you're open up again to the violations as outlined in the bylaw.
Mr. Canty, I got a question on a lot of this language we've taken from other towns and how they do this bylaw, and I think that's a great way to do it. How do their fines work, the fines in other towns work? And a $50 fine for a building, and not to pick on Burt's, but a building that size is not really a lot of money. So
Right.
I don't know if we should structure the fine by the square footage of the blight. I don't know if that would work.
So I believe the fines are capped by Mass General Law.
Okay.
So but the fines are really a mechanism to do the other things that we want to do, because we can take the repairs or other corrective action and charge them for that. So the fines, we're not going to make a lot of money off the fines.
I don't think this is not about making money.
No.
But this is about getting somebody's attention that,
Right.
The residents don't like looking at this.
Right.
It's a hazard, and we want it fixed. And I hope we don't have to use this. I mean,
Right.
I hope we never have to use this bylaw. This is not about, I don't like penalizing residential taxpayers or commercial taxpayers.
Mm-hmm.
But, we've been talking about a few buildings in this town, Full Sail, Burt's, the building in North Plymouth, that's not a building now, it's a hole in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this whole thing was created for.
Right.
So,
So I think when we issue the fine to them, we could articulate in the notice or that additional penalties up to and including corrective action by the town could follow if it's not followed through upon. Much like if you get in trouble at work or something, they say, if additional issues happen, corrective action up to including termination could happen, something like that, right? So then they would be put on notice that, yeah, $50 to start off with is not going to break the bank for most people, although I don't know how much revenue the whole in North Plymouth is bringing in, but the attention getting is the further corrective action and the charges that would entail that would connect to the property. And that's really what we want to do with this. But I certainly understand your comments. Any other thoughts on violations or any of the prior slides? Any questions of any kind? Okay. Well, so this is the first. So we'll come back with some slight tweaks to some of the language that Mr. Golden had suggested. The next presentation, and maybe at the next presentation, now that this has been aired publicly and televised, there'll be some feedback that we get from other folks, town meeting members, members of the public, about any concerns they have, anything they wish was in there, anything they wish was not in there, anything like that. So we're trying to start a dialogue on this so that next time we go to town meeting, we're not facing a landslide defeat, but rather consensus victory, that we can address some of the problems that we know and have existed in this community for a prolonged period, and we would finally have the mechanism with which to address it.
So I'd like to thank Attorney McKay and yourself, because I think this is very close to be ready to present. I think you're in great shape. Even the issue David brought up, I think you should leave that as is. I really do. But no, I mean, it's just my opinion.
Yep.
So I think you're in great shape with this.
Yep.
When you get that fine structure finished,
Right.
I think you'll be able to present. So great job.
Right. Thank you.
Attorney McKay, thank you.
All right. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you very much, and we will return at a later time with a more finalized version, and we'll get some feedback then, and then we'll put it on a warrant for the fall, hopefully, and hopefully we'll be successful in October. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak under public comment? Please make sure the green light's on and identify yourself for the record.
Steve Lyden, Vice Chair, Precinct 17. I'd like to thank the DPW for the great job they've been doing with chip and seal. They did Wareham Road, they've done Long Pond Road, they've done Hedges Pond Road. They've done a great job. I know this is the first coat, and they'll be back, and it'll even be better when they're done, but they're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. It's nice to hear.
Everett Malaguti. I actually wouldn't have come up today until I looked at one of the administrative notes on the agenda tonight, and I just have a question relative to it. So there was approved for acceptance if granted the $6,000 for a reuse swap shed at the transfer station. The only reason I'm bringing this up is I attend multiple recycling committee meetings in Kingston where they have their own reuse swap shop that actually has been closed due to COVID, but also staffing issues for volunteers. My questions are, and I will also send this forward to the DPW director as well too, is what is the actual staffing going to be for the swap shop? Is it going to be staff or volunteers? Hours of operation? Is there enough room for queuing of cars that are dropping off stuff there? And what's the actual protocols for the actual items that are being dropped off there? Are they going to be in deplorable condition that people just don't want to throw in their trash? Are they going to be conditions that it actually can be reused and stuff like that? And I think it was a little bit of a shocker seeing that. I approve of having one. I just want to make sure that they take cues from Kingston and other municipalities that have this to make sure that it's not just going to be an accumulation of trash that we're going to have to spend more money on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malaguti. Jackie, we have anyone online? No? Okay. Town managers report, please.
Oh, great. So I want to start with what Mr. Lyden had mentioned regarding chip sealing. So as Mr. Lyden mentioned, that the DPW has already started the first phase of the chip sealing process, which is basically filling in the areas that need grading. And as of this coming Monday, the town will begin the final coat of the chip sealing process. And so we are expecting 17 miles of chip seal to be completed, to be started on this coming Monday. So again, that's 17 miles. I think the most miles the town has ever paved in one paving season has been 15 miles. So this year alone, we'll do 17 miles in chip seal. And then in addition to that, there are 3 roads that we will start this week pulverizing. Nix Rock Road, South Cherry Street, and Eaton Way will all be pulverized this week, and then paving will also begin as well. So again, as presented by the DPW director in the past, we have a total of 30 miles of roads that will be completed in this paving season. So again, a lot of great work happening on the DPW. I want to bring to the board's attention, at our last meeting, Mr. David Gould, the director of the Department of Energy and the Environment, presented the identification of 2 piping plover nests located at White Horse Beach. He mentioned in his comments that last year we had 1 nest. This year we doubled that to 2 nests. And because of these 2 nests, we were working with fire and police and other public safety agencies to determine what would be the correct course of action as it relates to the July 3rd celebration on White Horse Beach. And at the time, we were suggesting that there would be no bonfire permits issued across White Horse Beach and even in parts of Priscilla Beach, and that we would have strict enforcement around fireworks because of these 2 nests. I was informed today that one of the nests and the adults associated with the nests are now no longer present, and that is the nest that was located south of the Bartlett Brook. So because of that, we released a statement to the community early evening that limits the restriction area to the Bartlett Brook north up to Full Sail. So that stretch of White Horse Beach, the fire department will not be issuing bonfire permits, but will allow for bonfires in the other areas of Priscilla Beach and the area on White Horse that is south of Bartlett Brook down to the boat ramp. And so we'll keep you posted. There is a 5-day waiting period. There is a suggestion that possibly this nest may produce eggs again, but given the fact that the adults are nowhere to be found, the likelihood of that happening is minimum. So again, I'll keep the board posted on that one. And then Brook Road Bridge is now complete. We were just waiting to do the final punch list items today, and the guardrail has been completed as of yesterday. So we will be releasing, hopefully in the next day or two, a notice to the community that Brook Road Bridge is reopened for traffic. So again, that was the second bridge that was completed in this construction season. I want to mention that, again, I mentioned last week that the master planning kickoff meeting was to take place last Thursday down at South Middle. It was reported that this, according to the consultants that we've hired for this master planning process, they said in their career this was the most well-attended master planning meeting in any community they've ever worked in. They predict that there were almost 300 folks in attendance at this meeting. So we thank everyone who's participated early on. We encourage them to continue to participate. This is going to be an 18-month process, so folks who haven't participated, there'll be other opportunities for you to get actively engaged, whether it's through surveys, online surveys, or physically present around the community. And then last, I just wanted to bring to the community's attention, this is more of a call for action. So As you know, former Selectman Harry Helm chaired the Dog Park Committee. Since his departure, the Dog Park Committee has received multiple resignations. As you know, this committee was actively pursuing a Stanton grant. They had identified a location for a dog park, and then ultimately the expectation was once this dog park was built using ARPA funds and Stanton grant dollars, that a nonprofit would be created, and this nonprofit would be responsible for the ongoing management and maintenance of the dog park. So I'm asking folks that are interested in dog parks, dog owners who want to see a dog park come to fruition, please reach out to the town manager's selectman office. If you're interested in serving on this committee, we need to reconvene this committee so that we can bring this project to full fruition. So that's all I have for this evening, pending any questions.
Any questions for the town manager? Derek, if you could, please, on Nix Rock Road, what are they doing on Nix Rock Road?
So Nix Rocks Road and South Cherry Street and Eaton Way, they'll be pulverizing the street and getting it prepared for a top coat of asphalt.
Okay, on Nix Rock Road, there's 3 or 4 manholes, I'm gonna call them manholes,
Okay.
and they're a foot above grade of the road. So when you get on Nix Rock Road, it's, you know, I only know because I lived there for like 40 years, but going around, it's like a minefield. So I hate to see the town go in there and resurface and do whatever else they're doing without fixing those. And it's not a little issue. I mean, you really need to drive down and look. So,
Yeah, thank you for the comment. Typically, when they pulverize the road, they go down to the base. So I'm pretty sure the contractor will adjust all of the structures to final grade. But I'll make sure we pass that on to the DPW director so that gets done.
because as it stands, they're at least 12 inches above grade. So I'm only saying, if they're not fixed, I'd like to see you put the brake on until, you know, otherwise you're going to be digging it up again to fix them. And I've been told that they're going to fix it. How deep are they ever? There you go. And he's not kidding. That's why you go around them. So that's why I only asked the question I asked. So, and I do not live on Nix Rock Road anymore, but I just, you know, I know the road.
It's interesting. Okay.
Anyway, yep, Mr. Canty and Mr. Blutzer.
So, just to circle back to the case of the missing plovers. So obviously when David Gould was here last week, he talked about the town's restrictions were designed to keep access to the beach in the long term. Some short-term pain, but for long-term gain, basically. That if we didn't follow the restrictions and the guidelines imposed by the state and the federal government, that more onerous ones would be imposed for longer duration and would limit beach access even further. So I assume I would be correct in encouraging residents to continue to comply with the existing restrictions wherever they may be, regardless of their preference to not be so restricted, because the alternative would be more onerous on everyone for a longer period of time. Would that be a fair assessment, Mr. Bendizzi?
Yeah, that's absolutely a fair assessment, and I think that we have history to prove that when the town chose to not be as restrictive on Long Beach, state and federal officials imposed severe restrictions, and we still live with those restrictions 20 years later. So
Right.
it's a point well taken.
Right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Blutzer?
So, Derek, so we're not going to have in one section of the beach between basically a full sail to the brook. Are we still going to have the same enforcement that we have every year down there? Is it
Yeah,
gonna-
we'll still have the same presence of fire and police
roads-
personnel like we've
roads.
always had. The restriction on that stretch of Whitehorse from Full Sail down to the brook, we are not allowed to have the UTVs there. We will only allow pedestrian traffic, if you will, on that stretch of the beach. But other than that, we will have UTVs that will be used. Bonfires will be allowed on the portion of the beach that is south of the brook,
Right.
down to the boat ramp, trying to blink, over at Minimum Point Road.
So,
down that
so
section.
the nest that was near the ramp, near the handicap pad, or whatever you call it, where the porta-johns are, down in the south part of Whitehorse Beach. So that nest is still there. I mean, that nest is gone.
That nest is gone,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
So you have the president road closures the same as what we do every year.
That's right.
Now, what about beach access between the Full Sail and the brook? Are people going to be allowed to go on the beach?
Pedestrians will be allowed to use that stretch of the beach. Bonfires will be prohibited on that stretch of the beach. UTVs will be prohibited on that stretch of the beach,
They will-
unless there's a public safety emergency, then we'd be allowed to
So will
go
there be
exempt at that point.
enforcement on foot, or how are you going to?
Yeah, so we'll have beat patrols on foot.
Okay, good.
Yep.
And we're sending, all the associations are going to be notified of this?
All the associations have already been notified.
Right,
yeah.
Great, okay, good, thank you.
The fire chief has been speaking directly to the associations.
And there's nothing, we're not going to be able to do anything later on. They talked about doing it another month.
No, both
For the year.
chiefs contemplated working with David Gould on delaying the July 3rd festivities to a date in August, and it was deemed by public safety personnel that was probably more risky than just proceeding with July 3rd.
Right. So everybody just get on to the other end of the beach if they want the bonfires and the fireworks. Right, I mean, that's all you can do is encourage that.
Right.
So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Anything under new business? Mr. Canty?
So I was contacted by some residents down on South Wareham Road about concerns about traffic volume, traffic speed, and I think some of their concerns were requesting things like stop signs, things that the board could do as road commissioners. But some of their concerns seem to suggest solutions that would require perhaps layout changes or gradient changes, something that would require a town meeting article to effectuate. So I said I would bring it up at the meeting to be something that we start looking into, but that there may not be an immediate solution. I know that some of the houses there are quite close to the road surface and are concerned that it's a cut-through for a lot of folks that are traveling at high rates of speed off the highway at levels that were not present prior to the development of the area by Red Brook. I think, and some of the traffic is like Red Brook related trucks, I think septage trucks, but some of it is like highway cut-offs, cut-throughs. So just, I know that some of the residents are very concerned about that and would like that to be on our radar going forward. So this perhaps may be the start of putting that on our radar and seeing what, if anything, we could do to alleviate the concerns that these folks have.
Yeah, I'd be happy to learn more about it, to learn more what their concerns are. I believe our former transportation engineer, now assistant DPW director, James Downey, has spent many evenings with the residents of the Red Brook area, so we certainly can re-engage the DPW and learn more about what the most present issues are. I believe it was just not that long ago, the board approved a four-way stop over on Wareham Road.
Right.
So that was controversial, so we were able to get that done.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, I don't want to be in the business of putting up stop signs where, the residents like. There's a process for that. It's worked well. And I think we just guided along. I agree that we should, somebody's residents are asking that we should take a look. However, the second part of that, this is my favorite one. These developers come in, no matter what they're developing, they develop, they take the cash, stuff their pockets, and off they go. And then here we are, later on, the residents coming to this board, to this town, and looking for traffic improvements, and guess what? The taxpayers have to pay for it. This should all be part of the planning process for any development in this town, whether it be sidewalks, road improvements, drainage. You know what, folks? If the developers can't afford it, don't build it. Because I think the citizens in this town have about had enough of it anyway, from what I'm hearing. So I just want to put my 2 cents in for that, and
Yes.
I see it all over the place. Oh, they can't afford the sidewalk, they can't afford that, and then the people come to this board or to the town meeting reps and ask them to go in and redo this. I agree with it. It should be fixed, but it shouldn't be at the taxpayer's expense. That's my issue with it.
No, I agree, and in terms of your earlier remarks, Mr. Chairman, as well, I did, remind the folks that were looking for like a stop sign, that the other stop sign at River Runway in Wareham involved a data-based analysis, not just, because otherwise, there's 378
We'll be putting
miles.
speed
Right,
bumps
we'd be
everywhere.
having stop signs everywhere, because everybody has that type of problem, but it can't be,
Exactly.
it can't be that type of solution. But I think that I have been down there at times and nearly been struck myself. So I think there are some legitimate concerns there, and that should be looked at for what potential further action could happen. But again, data-driven based on those criteria that we used at Wareham and River Run, as opposed to just preferential treatment.
It's probably not premature to maybe bring these concerns to the planning board and the zoning board of appeals, if so need be. I know the zoning board of appeals grants relief, but when these projects are being planned, this is part of the deal. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So as they're going along, and I know I've been to so many of these hearings where they have a traffic engineer, and they have a this engineer, and they have a that engineer, but, I'm going to say today what I said 18 years ago or so. I haven't seen a traffic study yet that's worked in this town, and that's it. So if the planning board's listening, I guess you can listen to that. But it's not. Look at Long Pond Road, look at the stacking on Route 3, this talk of the convention center. If you all notice, I haven't said a word until now, because that's going to be the first thing, the traffic coming down to Water Street or wherever it might be. So we as planners, road commissioners, whatever you want to call it, these are all the things we have to work with. And we have to work with the planning board and the planning department to handle what's going on. And, we got to dig in a little.
I agree.
Okay. Mr. Bletzer, then Mr. Golden?
Yeah,
I'm just watching the
I-
motions here.
I have a few things, but old business bylaws do work. I was talking to the neighbors out here about the garage. It's been great. They said the bylaw's working. The notoriety from that, it's been very quiet, and they want to thank the board and the town manager for getting this thing done, and the chief of police, of getting it done. So the bylaws do work. I haven't heard any complaints down in the parking lots. I'm not sure if the town, so I think everybody's very happy with that. So they wanted to thank everybody. I drove by, I was down on Whitehorse today, happened to drive through, and I saw, speaking of James Downey, he was down there with Patrick Farah from Conservation, and they went down to address the issue that I got a complaint, not a complaint, I got a concern from somebody, one of the association president down there, that they got a lot of water coming through the storm drain, and people, they said it looked like, and I hate using the word cesspool, but it was water that was pooling. And they went down, and it was gone, but they assured me it was not, there's no sewerage going on that beach. And anybody listening, it was runoff from the street, and they know about it, and they were taking a look at that, and they might have some ideas for that property to maybe improve the stormwater drain, but that'll come at another time, that issue. The last thing I wanted to talk about, I just draw a blank. David, you go ahead. I'll figure out what I wanted to say. I have one more thing I wanted to talk about.
Thank you, Mr. Blitzer. And thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two items. Derek, thank you for your update. I know that, just going back to the planning for the July 3rd holiday, I sat on the Merrimack Village Steering Committee prior to joining the board, and I know that they've done a lot of work to help get the info out to community members, so I think it would be great if we could engage them, get them involved in the conversation so that they can help spread the word as well.
Sure.
And then my other item is that this has been a tough week for the community. For folks who I'm sure are aware, we lost 2 community members this week, and I think it would be nice for the board to offer their sympathy to the families of Rodney Riviello and Jaden Andrews, and if you're okay with it, Mr. Chairman, engage in a moment of silence.
Absolutely. This time, I'd like to have a moment of silence. Thank you. If I may, Charlie, then.
Sure, you're good, yep.
Just to touch on that, the Ravello family and the Andrews family were just 2 of a rough week for this community. And once again, I'll say the community came together like it always does and stepped up to the plate, and very proud to be a leader in this community. I spoke with the Andrews family on Saturday morning, a member. I'm not going to go into details, but we put it out there for both the families on behalf of the town of Plymouth, and we helped any way we could. And I'd be remiss right now, and I touched on this a couple weeks ago, and I want to say it again, and sincerely, I sent memos to both chiefs to pass on to the departments. I know they've had a rough week, and that's before the week even ended, and there was some more tragedy, and that we appreciate them, not just as a board, but as a community, for what they see and what they do. And, sometimes just a thank you and to be acknowledged. And I want to say thank you to all our public safety and anybody else, the citizens, everybody. Proud to live in Plymouth. I wouldn't live anywhere else. I love this town. Thank you.
My senior moment's over. I wanted to speak about, and Attorney McKay was there with me. We had a meeting of all our license holders, alcohol license holders. That went very well. Lisa Johnson set that meeting up. She did a great job doing that. The library was packed, and it's not easy to get 100-plus bar restaurant folks in a room together, especially this time of year. It's everybody's real busy. But it was an important meeting, and we talked about the importance of controlling what goes on inside and outside of your restaurants. And the ABC started off, the chairman was there, she spoke, the executive director and his deputy was there, his attorney counsel for the ABC was there. We had the labor law lawyer was there for the feds, and they all gave presentations on the regulations and the responsibilities of holding these licenses. They talked about everything from liquor liability to they talked about child labor in the labor laws and the penalties that go with it. And it covered a lot of ground for all the license holders. I talked to several afterwards the next couple of days, and they said it was very informative. People learned things that they didn't know, and these were some long-time operators that learned something that day. It's something I think if we don't do it every year, we should do it every couple of years. And the main reason we brought this is we've had some incidents in the town, and the new newspaper sometimes sensationalizes things and talked about there was violence in the downtown. There was an article, and that really concerned, not only myself, but a lot of the business owners in the downtown. So we got everybody together to explain that there could be ramifications if there's issues. The police, the chief will be bringing, if there's incidents, it's going to be brought to the attention of the board. We are the licensing board for the town of Plymouth. So hopefully everybody gets it and everybody operates properly, and if there's a problem, they take care of that problem, because sometimes you can't stop, you can't stop situations, but it's what you do afterwards that is really important. So anyway, it was a great meeting. It's something that we should do, if not every year, at least every 2 years, and it's mandatory too. So anyway, I just wanted to report about that. It was a very productive day. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything under letters? Old business? The next meeting will be on July 9th. The board wants to wish the community a happy, safe 4th. And please, everybody, behave, and let's have a quiet 4th if it's possible. We don't need any more tragedies. We've had our share of those in the last couple of weeks, so that's all that's coming from. And I'd be remiss to say, before I take a motion to adjourn, that we lost a long-time employee, I believe in the airport division, Mr. Swift, who's been with the community many years, I want to say over 25. So our thoughts and prayers go out to him as well and his family. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We'll see you on July 9th. Have a good week.